Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Roberts, coming to you live from Southern California. Welcome, wherever you are. Happy afternoon or good morning. I'm going to be sharing with you today the group creator spreadsheet that I've created to help me organize my students and differentiate instruction and do what I need to do in the classroom fast and functionally. So bear with me while I share my screen and get this started, and I'll run through our options for us. That is not the application window I need. Hang on a moment. Technical difficulties, much to be expected. Let's try again. There we go. All right. And switch over to this one. And let's see. I think you should pretty soon see what I'm seeing.
Yep.
Except you're seeing it probably with just a slight lag. That's interesting. All right, so the group creator spreadsheet is designed to help you put your kids together in groups that make sense and are based on actual real information and not just random. So in the lower left corner of your screen is a link to get I think the link takes you directly to the blog post about how to do this. So it might take you directly to the sheet as well, but if you go to the blog post, it also has a link to the sheet. So I am Jen Roberts. I teach 9th grade English at Point Loma High School. You can find me on Twitter at JenRoberts1, where I share lots of stuff frequently. There is a little warning on this presentation. It comes with a trigger warning because there are spreadsheets ahead. If you have spreadsheet phobia, I understand. I also still have a tremendous fear of Excel, but we are going to be using Google Sheets. So not to worry. They are much simpler and easier and more happy and more friendly. So it comes down to this. In my classroom, student collaboration is awesome. I love to put my kids together. I love to have them working on things together. But figuring out which students should be in which groups is incredibly challenging and, as you know, can be very, very, very time consuming. So I was looking for a way to group my students that didn't take me as long to do and was based on real data. I didn't want to just use a random generator. There's plenty of those you can find on the internet. You just put in your student names and it scrambles them for you, but that's not always purposeful, and the groups don't always end up evenly balanced. They don't always end up, and you certainly can't use it to make a homogeneous grouping of your students that you might need for instructional reasons. So this is something my students often see when they walk in the classroom. This is what's on the board. And this one that you're looking at here is a sample one. The names are alphabetical, but you'll notice that in every group there's a student whose name starts with A and a student whose name starts with B and C and D. I can change that. I can also group them so that all the A's are together, all the B's are together, all the C's are together. So this is an example of a heterogeneous grouping of my students. So this is what it looks like in practice in the classroom. This is my first period class, and they are grouped in partners heterogeneously by that day. And there's colored cones on the tables that tell them where to sit. So they come in and they sit at their table next to their partner. And then we read for the first few minutes of the period because I'm an English teacher. And then we get started on our work for the day. And I know that every student has a partner that's right for them for that day, academically at least. Sometimes I still make tweaks based on some social considerations. So how does it work? You add your students' names. And then you go ahead and add some data about them, their Lexile level, a quiz score, anything numerical. Often I add like their progress on a recent draft or something like that. You sort that data by A to Z or Z to A, depending on the order you'd like them in. And your students' names become re-rostered in that order based on the data. I'm going to show you. Don't panic. And then you click the tabs across the bottom of the spreadsheet for different group configurations. It looks something like this. You put in your student names. Voila. You add a score. I add them by hand. Today I'm pasting. There they go. You sort by that score. In this case, A to Z. So the lowest scores are at the top: Dan, Fabian, Albert, Connor, Evan, Alice. And when I click on homogeneous groups, Dan, Fabian, Albert, Connor, Evan, Alice are all in the one group. And on heterogeneous, they're all spread out. So now we're going to sort, I think, again by Z to A, the reverse. And my hi kids. Amy, Betty, Catherine, Chad, Chris, and Donald are all there at the top. And that puts them all in one group in group 1, or it spreads them out across the room, depending on what you need. So don't worry, there's directions. I wrote out exactly how you do it. And my Twitter handle's on there too. If you have a question, you can tweet at me and I will help you out. If you get really stuck, you can share your spreadsheet with me and I will help you out then too. It can break sometimes if your class is less than 36. There are some configurations where that does not work well for. And you can also break it if you delete an entire row. Don't ever delete an entire row. If a student leaves your class, you just delete the cell that has their name, not the whole row. So this is the page that you want a picture of. The blog post about the group creator, there's a link to that in the lower left corner there. The URL in the middle is a direct link to make a copy of this. If you just want the spreadsheet, you don't need the blog post. What I just explained works great for you. You can link straight to that. My email is there, my Twitter handle is there, and my blog is litntech.com. So there's some credits there. All right. And that is what you need to know. If you'd like to see it in action, I have a little demo I can also share with you. Just want to make sure that updates to your screens. So here is a demo of the group creator. Again, fake names of students here on the left, and some data I've added about them. Say, for example, their reading or their Lexile score. Sort by that. Choose homogeneous groups. Oops. Like 6 homogeneous groups. And your students with the lower Lexile scores will be grouped together for instructional purposes that you can work with them. Or you can put them in heterogeneous groups so that they work with other people at various levels. And you can also put them in pairs by homogeneous or heterogeneous. Now, the way all this is working, like, Jen, that's awesome. How does it work? Okay, great. So the way it's working is through a Google spreadsheet formula. Each of these cells is actually calling back to the roster page. So when I change the order of the students on the roster page in the A column, it changes who turns up in which cell here on the group pages. So if we look at heterogeneous groups and I switch to view and I show formulas, you can see the heterogeneous groups looks at the student who's in cell A2 and the student who's in cell A8 and then A14, A20, A26. It's basically pulling about every 7th student, every 6th or 7th student into that group. If I go to the homogeneous groups, oops, wrong one. Here's this one. If I go to the homogeneous groups, it's choosing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's grouping together students who had similar criteria when I sorted the roster page. And so that's how that works. And of course, you can edit those formulas as you need to, change the numbers in them if you need to, or change the order of kids here. I'm going to sort this back to alphabetical so it's all ready to go the next time I show it to somebody. And thank you so much. That was short and sweet, and that's how the group creator works. Any questions, Nate? Make sense to you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I just maybe sometimes when you want to tweak it for a very specific reason. Mm-hmm. So let's say a student, it's just really, I don't know, maybe not completing an assignment on time or something. Is there ways that you can really pair them in the right group by changing some of their score or adding an additional row or something?
Sure, I can change their score. So a lot of times, like I'll look at my students' drafts in progress, and this column G is a score for drafts in progress. I can sort by that. And now I'm grouping students based on where they are in their draft. And if I put them in homogeneous groups, they're ready to work with other students who are also not done with their draft, or they're ready to just spend some time writing that draft in class. But they need to.
How do you scale a draft progress?
I flip through their Google Docs in preview mode and look at, are they mostly done or are they not mostly done? And that's just a number I put in anywhere between 1 and 9 based on what I'm seeing in their work. And really I just kind of glance at each paper and say this person has a lot of work to do or this person has a little work to do, and that's not a score that ever goes in their grade book necessarily. It's a ranking for me so that I know, sort of who I need to work with and who's going to be ready for like a peer review situation. So
I think that's really great that you can do that.
yeah, no, it's a lot of fun, and I use it almost every day with my students. They do have default seats that are sort of their normal, regular assigned seats, but on a somewhat regular basis, they walk into the room and there's cones on the table, and they don't know when they walk in if they're going into heterogeneous groups or homogeneous groups. I never use those words with them.
Yeah.
I always just say, yep, you're in the blue group today. And because the tables are assigned with cones, I can put the blue group anywhere I want, and I can look at the spreadsheet and say, oh, well, that student's going to be in the blue group today, so I'm going to make sure I put that one closer to me. Or this other student's going to be in the red group today, so I'll maybe put the red group closer to me today. Or, so as I move around the room, I sort of know, I can separate personalities and, decide where I need people to be. So.
And students never figure out that they're in different groupings?
Their groupings change so often and for so many different reasons that they know they're grouped, and usually they assume it's random. Sometimes I will walk up to a table and say, okay, you're all here today because you need to work on your draft. So that's what you're doing. Go. Because they really just need time. Other groups need help. Other groups need each other. So it allows me to sort of separate and differentiate based on their needs when I put them in homogeneous groups. And then when I put them in heterogeneous groups, because I want them to work together or figure something out together, then I know I have, a range of students at the table who are going to do that. So, and processing all their data all the time actually really does help me to get to know my kids a little better too. Because I'm constantly looking at, what have they done? What have they not done? Where are they in that? How are they ranking? And a student may rank low on something for a variety of reasons. It could be attendance. It could be they're just struggling more with that particular concept. It could be, almost any reason. So there are some students who will rank low for one thing and high for something else. And depending on what I sort for that day, we work it out. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah.
Totally awesome. All right. I will see you Monday night, if not before.
Okay.
Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.